Hey, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing a more serious topic and further continuing my, series on Cosmodor, where I break down everything he's done and highlight a lot of the mistakes he's made. I didn't really want to make this video at first. I was going to make this just a short little community post where I went through and broke down basically everything he said, highlighted how he was making mistakes in his viewpoint, and some of the things that genuinely infuriated me, where he came across more like he was trying to get sympathy out of his actions than anything else, while trying to simultaneously excuse what he did. And that whole community post that he released yesterday has genuinely got on my nerves. But I realized after writing and rewriting and going through different thoughts as to how I want to progress with this whole community thread, I decided it would be easier to just make it into a video and go through it and just give you my straight, honest thoughts without watering it down or simplifying it to make it easier to write. So I've just sat down today in front of the microphone, no script, to just go through and basically talk out my thoughts on this community post and just discuss it. So if you're willing to sit through with me on it, I think you'll probably enjoy this video. I feel like there's a lot to learn here, I feel like there's a lot to dissect, and although Cosmodor is a terrible person that's done a lot of terrible things, he is still human. I'm just so sick of him excusing his behavior and deciding that he's gonna disable all comments so people can't criticize him every time he does this type of shit. It's unforgivable the way he handles this situation and his platform. But with that being said, before I begin, hi, I'm HarleyTBS, welcome back to a brand new video. If you're new to the channel or don't recognize me for some reason, please do go down below and click subscribe. By doing so, you help me reach my 25,000 subscriber goal that I'm itching closer and closer to, which is insane. Thank you so much for all of the recent support, by the way, it genuinely means a lot. And my other social medias like my Twitter, Discord, Instagram are all linked in the description down below if you want to support me on more platforms, and if you join my Discord or turn on notifications on my Twitter, you will get notified every time I release anything into the public, so that you can keep up to date with everything I do, and make sure that you don't miss any of the videos that I post at 6 PM GMT, 1 PM EST every single day. Also, just as a little forewarning, this video covers serious topics, and I won't be using the very serious terms that are used to address what Cosmodor did, but as a brief summary to catch you back up with who Cosmodor is and some of his past actions, Cosmodor is a content creator who used to make animation review content, who was called out and exposed for manipulating a minor in a relationship with the intention to meet up with them in person and sending them indecent material. However, it was also found out later, more recently, and called out by me first, that Cosmodor had also had engagement with another child, that time sexually, which was completely unforgivable, and with that, he closed the book on his whole career with no chance of parole. Cosmodor has literally put himself in the handcuffs and basically surrendered to the police at this point. I obviously mean that metaphorically, he hasn't actually been handcuffed, but I mean that he's basically given up his whole online career. Although he intends to try and return, he's not going to be able to. To be completely honest, Cosmodor has no more place on this platform when he's admitted to taking advantage of fans in this kind of way and had done sexually explicit actions with them. Yesterday, Cosmodor released a vent piece to his community where he decided to discuss everything, and there's a lot in it that genuinely irks me. A lot where I just sit there and I process it and I'm like, this dude is obviously mentally unstable, and he's also a terrible person. While he's a terrible person, that doesn't excuse the fact that he needs to get help, but he's so clearly blinded by his own self-hatred and inability to improve, that the only conclusion he can come to on his own is to either push everybody away out of his life so he's left alone, or take his life, which are obviously two very awful decisions. While Cosmodor has made awful, awful mistakes, that doesn't mean that he deserves death. That doesn't mean that he deserves to lose his whole life. And that's what I'm going to discuss today. I'm going to give my thoughts on Cosmodor, his new community post, and where he can go from here. Obviously, he's not going to be continuing content creation. That is not a way he can go, because he is way more susceptible to taking advantage of kids in this kind of position. If you want to check out the full community post, it is public, so you can go check it out. But I'm going to start from here. One thing that's very prevalent in borderline people that a former friend has told me about is that you make people what they call your favorite person, that you revolve your whole life around them and basically make their identity your own because you're so unsure on your own. You start to idealize this person and think that they can do no wrong, only for them to mess up ever so slightly, just the tiniest confrontation, and it will throw you into a spiral thinking they have it out to get you and that they're trying to hurt you like everyone else. And I really wish I could just go one friendship with one new person in my life that I don't do this to put them on this pedestal that they can never live up to do everything for them in the hopes that they like you more, only to push them away when you feel as though they aren't good for you, that they really hate you, and that they're only putting up with you out of pity. As you know, I even did that with people a lot younger than me. You can say that makes me a foul, or a group, or whatever. I know I can't change your mind. This isn't meant to defend myself on that. Once someone crosses a line, you don't care how they got there. But I know myself good enough to know that I only ever did that because I feel like such a failure that I took any form of affection I could get from whatever place. Now, this is where I want to highlight a complete mistake in Cosmodor's whole statement and a complete misunderstanding of himself and what he's dealing with, as Cosmodor wouldn't have done this with anyone. If Cosmodor would have done this with anyone, he would have. He wouldn't have been doing this with kids. There are multiple adults that would be interested in Cosmodor. Multiple adult women, men, whatever. This is not a case of Cosmodor trying to just find anyone that will accept him. That's a complete excuse. Cosmodor targeted children because they were easy victims. They were victims of his sexual crimes. There's nothing else to do with that. He didn't cling on to them because he needed someone to talk to, or needed someone to idealize, because that's not what Cosmodor did in any way, in any matter of the term. Cosmodor took advantage of these kids. Cosmodor had sexually explicit actions with these kids. If he was just idolizing them or needed someone to be with, he wouldn't have been doing this sexual stuff with them. Cosmodor, no matter what mental disability or illness he has, understands that it is wrong to have illicit relationships with minors. He does understand that. Every human ever understands where the legal line lies and where the moral line lies. You can't tell me that Cosmodor didn't know the relationships he was having were wrong. The first one, maybe he could use the excuse that people in his life had normalized it. Still, it would be wrong, but he'd have some sort of justification. The second time, he's already been called out on it. He already knows what crime he's doing. He went even further than the first time, and he didn't even excuse it. Cosmodor knows what he did was wrong, and he knows he would have done it either way. It's not because he was just clinging onto anyone. That is not the case. While Cosmodor claims here that he's not defending himself in any way, he's simultaneously making excuses for his actions, claiming that it wasn't out of malicious intent to target kids, but instead because he just needed someone he could cling on to and get affection from. His actions make him a criminal sexual predator, and he says that he can't change our mind on that, which means to me, anyway, that he believes that he isn't, despite preying on and having sexual engagements with kids. The fact that he still doesn't see that that is predatory, in my opinion, is a complete problem and a complete outrage. We could end up with a third victim, which is what I'm stressed about. I'm completely worried because he ends this community thread by saying that he'll have a high one day, think that he can do nothing wrong, and do it all again, meaning find another child and prey on them again. That's my biggest worry, that Cosmodor isn't getting the help he needs. He doesn't go to get the professional help he needs because he's worried because he had one bad experience there, and now he's in a situation where he is so susceptible to repeating the past behavior that has got him so much backlash, that's lost him his platform, that's bordering criminal behavior if it hasn't already gone over that border, and could likely land him in jail if the victim was in the same country as him. Cosmodor continues saying, "Everything feels like a test, like I have to prove my worth to myself and that it's not too late for me, but what if it is? I keep thinking how much better everyone else would be if I wasn't in the picture. Like, I'd be doing everyone in a favor if I just went and left for good, because that way I can't hurt anyone anymore." Now, again, this is another mistake in how Cosmodor is viewing this situation. What Cosmodor did is unacceptable behavior, and he's gonna lose his YouTube platform for it. No one on YouTube will ever want him to return, and I don't believe he ever should be able to, because it will put him in a situation where he can prey on his fans again. However, Cosmodor can get help, therapy, a lot of therapy, and ideally get himself in the type of headspace where he can continue his regular life. He can rebuild bridges with some of the friends that he's lost. He can get a regular job away from kids, because this dude should not be allowed near kids. Just to keep that in mind. I don't want anyone suggesting that he can return to YouTube, because he shouldn't be able to. And he could live a normal life. But for some reason, Cosmodor sees his only escape as taking his own life, which I think is the wrong decision. I don't think that Cosmodor should lose his life over this. I think that instead, Cosmodor should get the help he needs to become a better person and never make these mistakes again. He's permanently hurt 2 different people now. Let's hope those are the last 2 he hurts. And listen, I know a lot of people watching this video will have more extreme views than me, and will believe that Cosmodor should lose his life over this. I understand where you're coming from. He's hurt a lot of people. Very, very, very deeply. And his actions are irredeemable. There's no excuse for them, there's no justification for them, and there should be no reason that they're ever forgiven in any way. But Cosmodor hasn't physically hurt any minor. Cosmodor has only done this stuff over the internet, and as a victim of the type of behavior Cosmodor has exhibited, I don't think him losing his life helps anyone. I think the best solution is for him to get the help he needs, so that he doesn't do this again. And that's where I'll leave this video. If you have enjoyed it or agree with me in any kind of way, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I make videos every single day on various different topics, and as such, if you did enjoy this video or found it informative, you could just support me by clicking the subscribe button. You can always unsubscribe later, but by subscribing to me, you support me, and it means that you get caught up on every upload I make. I make a lot of more informative videos. I also made a video in the past about the newest case against Cosmodor, which is a very informative one. I believe it's one of the best videos out there for that whole situation, so you should watch that if you want to be kept up to date on everything and filled in on everything that happened. And with that being said, make sure to turn on notifications for the channel, and if you want to support me financially, you can check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or click the join button down below this video. By doing any of those 3 things, you support me financially and allow me to continue making content and investing in high quality assets. But that's where I'll leave it for now. I'd love to know your opinions in the comments. You don't have to agree with me. This is just my opinion, and if you disagree with my opinion, that's fine. I don't mind. But I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and peace.
Said she wanna rock with it like me. I'm a stylish guy. Spend a little guap with it like me. We can catch a fly. Said she wanna rock with it like me.